I do still feel like that was a lot of information for me, which I'm grateful for. I'm always happy for new information about you and about your thought process.
It's new to me too. I'm just coming, it's springing forth like one of those like we were talking about last night, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like you always come up with some kind of deeply introspective realization about yourself every day behind something. Again, you're like, because I be taking in all this information and asking me these questions that get me there. I just felt like this was like one of those moments for me. Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Brandon, and I am joined once again by the illustrious Ciandra.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for doing that for you. You didn't do it for yourself.
I know.
Say your name again.
Also, I'm here. Your boy Brandon.
Yeah.
I got so excited. I jumped straight into it. I was just thinking about you.
Thank you, babe.
And I know you the star of the show.
We're co-stars. Co-main characters.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the buffet.
Yeah,
podcast.
Welcome to the buffet podcast. Oh, you want to take it?
No,
welcome to the buffet podcast.
I didn't want them to be confused about where they were at and what they were listening to.
Welcome back.
But this is a side note. I listened to the Brilliant Idiots like one of these days while I was folding clothes, and they had to redo their intro like 3 or 4 different times because they couldn't get it right. I can't remember who said what, but somebody was saying something flagrant or not spicy enough, and so they just like kept redoing it, and that our mess up made me think of that. Not a mess up, we just remix it. If we give you the same thing every time,
yeah, you gotta keep it fresh, keep it spicy.
Exactly,
a little bit.
Keep you guessing.
Like you were saying, welcome back to another episode of the Buffet Podcast. This is episode 86. Welcome. Now, we're gonna jump straight into it. This clip comes to us by a longtime fan of ours. Shout out to Rob. We appreciate it. We're going. Ciandra hasn't seen it. I saw it because it was sent to me, so I had to see it. Ciandra's going to be reacting to this relatively, fresh. So let's go. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Is this Steve Harvey one?
Yes.
What are some of the important principles to consider when you're in a disagreement with your partner?
Okay, so I say 3 tips, right? First and foremost, you have to remember that you are not the problem and your partner is not the problem. The problem is the problem. And it's up to the two of you to work together on the same team in order to resolve that problem. That's first and foremost, okay? Secondly, what's important, you cannot win a battle without losing the war. The minute that you were pitted against your partner in a conflict, if you won, that means they lost and ultimately your relationship loses. So you never, ever want to be in that position. And then last but not least, when somebody tells you that you've hurt them, you don't get to decide that you didn't. And so if you don't respond to your partner's hurts and wounds in a relationship, you will lose them and your relationship every time.
That's real. What are some of the important principles?
This music,
I was just thinking that. I'm like, yo,
Steve Harvey clip.
This music is not necessary. Like, it's making me feel like some atrocity is like being. It's like it should be like a UNICEF commercial. It should be accompanying this. Something, like, yo,
it's very downbeat, low tempo,
like
boom.
Be sad. A tragedy just occurred.
Yeah, it's not that sad.
It's not. It's
okay, immediate reaction to it. I agree with it for the most part, especially that first part of like the problem is the problem, not the other person is the problem. Because a big part of the reason why I feel like we get into a space where we think the other person is the problem is because it's easier that way. It's like if you just change, then this problem will no longer exist, and it makes us less accountable for the role that we play in it, right? And so I think when we are in a space where we want our partner to be the problem, it's really just about like not wanting to be accountable for what you're contributing to the problem in whatever fashion. Like it doesn't necessarily, like, of course there are spaces and times where like, yes, they are behaving in a way that is increasing or magnifying the problem, but you still have a part to play in it, and your perception of it. Like, even to label it as a problem is your perception. Like, that's not necessarily them or their action. That's your perception that's causing you to label the behavior as problematic. So, yeah, I think that's a good first one. And we just had a discussion, and I feel like, I don't know if we ever had, like, the other person is a problem language for, like, as an issue in our relationship. But I definitely recognize that the problem being the problem, or like perception factoring into the problem, is always the case. It's always like, from my point of view, it was this, and from your point of view, it was some other thing, or like it meant something else. And so, like, if you think the other person is the problem, you miss out on an opportunity to understand and be curious about what's happening for them. Because if I would have just come at you with blame, it would have been much easier for you to respond with defensiveness, and then nothing to get addressed or resolved.
Yeah, I agree. So to the point of the, it's all about the perception or the POV of the situation. So like you said, to your point, to you, it's like it's a problem, but to me, I didn't see it as a problem, and that's why we are here. That could be it, or and vice versa. And I think that a lot of times when we try to take away the fact that you were hurt, like to her last point about, like, just because when your partner says, like, they're hurt behind something you said or did or what have you, you don't get to be like, no, you're not hurt because that's not what my intention was, or what have you. And I think a lot of the times we see it like, well, I didn't intend for it to hurt you. I wasn't trying to do that. Therefore, ergo, it's a you problem, and like, you fix that shit, because like, I didn't do nothing. Like, I was just minding my business or doing what happens doing. It was nothing in, like, I wasn't trying to do anything negative to you. So like, it's not my fault. Like, I didn't hurt you. I'm sorry. Like, no, not even that part. So I think by treating the problem as the problem, and not necessarily like the person who did the problem, like they're trying to say, the whole point is it cuts down on the defensiveness. Because I admit, my first inclination is to put my guard up. As soon as it's like, oh God, what did I do this time? And even just having that thought process is kind of problematic to me. And also, I would think so in general, just like, if the automatic assumption when someone brings something up to you is to be like, I got to fight for my life, or like, oh God, what did I do this time type situation. And that's something that you might want to take a deeper look at, and like figure out why your first response is like duck punches.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think we all get defensive, but we get defensive for different reasons. Yeah, because my response when I'm defensive is like, oh no, I'm a good person. Good people don't do whatever this thing is that you're saying. Or like, if you say that I've done something that has hurt you, and like, for me, it's connected to my character or like who I view myself as, and it's like, no, I wouldn't do that thing, or I wouldn't do these things that have hurt you, or say these things that have hurt you. And so for me, it's like, I'm defending my character. Like, no, my intentions were good. I did this because I thought it was a good thing and the right thing to do at that time. Now I hear that it hurts you, but you ain't finna say
it was a me thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So I say that to say that we all get defensive.
Absolutely.
And that's just one of the ways that I know personally that I can get defensive. And I think that having that awareness is a good first step. Like, if you know that you're defensive and you know like what the root of that is, it makes it easier to talk to yourself when you're about to get defensive.
Okay.
You know?
Yes, I agree with you. So like, I agree that being aware is like the first step and things of that nature. And it can make things easier, but also it can also make things more frustrating, like take longer, because then suddenly you go from like, this is probably her thing, to like, did I do something wrong? Like, did I really like, do I need to take a step back and really look at it? Like, did I just not see it? And then you find yourself doing this shit all the time, and then it can come to the point where you're doing it during times that you really probably shouldn't, or you don't need to be doing it. It even happens when it's not like for example, you coming to me over some things that I said or did. It can just be on like, I personally perceive something happening. Maybe you said something or this and that triggered me. And I'm thinking like, is this a me thing? Or is this something that she did that's pissing me off? Do I need to examine like objectively, did anything happen wrong or did this just trigger something that I had in me? Like you didn't do anything wrong, but it was just something that I picked up on. And like, that's great and it's good, but it can also on the low be kind of exhausting when you're doing it for everything. Like, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. I'm just acknowledging that like that process, especially when you first start doing it and before it becomes like a habit for you, is like exhausting because it almost feels like you're questioning everything you say or do all the time to make sure that like, no, it's almost like am I gaslighting myself? Am I like making a problem out of something that doesn't need to be that's not a problem? Am I making sense?
You are making sense. I am curious though, how much of that is happening internally versus it being externally shared? Because I wonder if the mental and emotional load feels much heavier because it stays inside.
So I definitely can admit that the majority of that is happening like internally, because like all of those factors are playing. It's also like, okay, how much of this can I solve on my own before I bring it up? Because once I bring it up, then like I can't take it back. It's going to bring us down the path. Like, is this thing I'm going to bring up going to cause some sort of conflict? And is that thing I'm going to bring up, the conflict that's going to cause, is it enough that I'm willing to go through, perhaps the cold shoulder or going back and forth or sitting in like uncomfortability enough to perhaps reach a satisfactory conclusion? And if that conclusion is that a big enough deal is that a hill that I'm wanting to die on, so to speak? So all of those things is like, and then once you do all that, you realize like you also got to question, why are you weighing the hill I want to die on? Like, why do you have to die on the hill? So it's like you question it, then you question the question, then you question it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, which is again exacerbated. There we go. Exacerbated by the fact that you didn't say nothing. You can just say something and then reach clarity and be like, oh shit, that was just me thing. I apologize. Boom, 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 and you go about your day. It's rarely, well, I can't say rarely. It's rarely in our circumstances that it reaches the point that I fear. I can't speak to other people's relationships and things of that nature, or what have you. But I admit that a lot of those contemplative processes are all internal, and then I'm like, should I bring this up? Should I not? Is this worth it? If I bring this up, what are the possible consequences? Like, where could this conversation take us? What other things can be brought up from this that may not necessarily be, in my mind, productive to whatever subject this is going on with? And that happens a lot, and it's tiring. So sometimes when you bring up things to me, all the time I'm like, God damn it, because as soon as you bring it up, I got to go through that whole process in my mind.
That whole process happens if I bring something up to you
every time. So I'm aware that it happens, but like I can't break that cycle so quickly. But I'm aware of it. So like I go through it and I get to a point like, wait a minute, I ain't got to be doing all this. But like when you bring stuff up, my mom is like, God damn it, here comes the mental load. I ain't got time. I'm not trying to like question my whole life right now behind this thing, right? But I was like, then I'm like, okay, chill. It's not that bad. We've been here before. We've done this and it's cool. And then I'm able to let it proceed. But like initially, that first reactive like thought and feeling is like, she got me out here. I got to go through this process now.
But that's a lot of a process. I thought that the process would happen only if you had an issue that you were trying to.
Oh, it happens for that too.
I thought that the way that you originally described it, I thought it was only if you had an issue that you were trying to process and decide how to move forward with. But if I bring something to you, you go through that whole internal process.
Yes.
That's a lot.
I don't disagree with you. It is a lot.
Boy,
So and
you need a nap. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I would need a nap after all of that you just described.
because that's just how I've had to do things like growing up, and like that's like in reflection, like that's the I would say the mechanisms that I've implemented, that I have unintentionally implemented, just based off of like how I've had to maneuver through life growing up and stuff like that. So it's just programming at this point, perhaps a little bit of self-programming. You know, definitely the defensiveness. Like as soon as someone says to me, like, I'm already like up, like I have to defend myself. Like, did I do something wrong? No. Okay, this is a you thing. So I usually when I go through that process, I've gotten to the point, or I had gotten to the point where I had like a pretty quick like a flow chart. Like, boom,
Okay.
this is a me thing. Yes, no. No, then it means it's their thing. Then what's the issue? Is it me thing? Okay, what did I do? Proceed, and it goes around and around. But a lot of times, at least in my perception, looking back on it, I'm not sure if it was objectively true or not. But just how I took it, it was just a lot of times it wasn't a me thing. It was like I'm being accused, or there's someone's like picking at me for a decision I've made, or a statement I've made, and I have to like defend it. And I've just gotten used to the point. It was like everyone around me is just more sensitive than necessary. Like, you're just overly sensitive. Like, chill. Like, I'm not doing all those things. But in being in a relationship, that shit don't fly. You can't automatically be like, you just being sensitive. Chill.
Yeah, I wish the hell you would. And I am sensitive. What about it?
Yeah. So I say all that to say that, yeah, it's a lot of cognitive load. It can be a lot of cognitive load. And because of that, I'm very conflict avoidant.
One thing that I would challenge you on is, instead of thinking of it as like a hill to die on, it's just a hill to climb. Because I'm not going to disagree with you that these conversations are challenging and like require emotional energy. But I think like climbing a hill by yourself with no walking stick and no water and none of the other things that you need to like get yourself, no bug spray, like, is a hill that you could potentially die on. And when you do that mental process and that all of that work by yourself, you leave yourself isolated and in a place where you really could die. Now, if you got water, you got a walking stick, you got a buddy next to you, you got your music, you got your snacks, like, it makes it much easier to be able to climb that hill with someone and with the things that you need, as opposed to like, I'm gonna climb this thing and I'm gonna die at the top because I ain't got shit. Like, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what you say makes all sense, and you're absolutely correct. But that hasn't been an option for me, and until recently. And it's not just like, is this the hill I'm going to die on? Is this the hill that I'm going to continue to die on? Because it's like, this is the hill I say my piece. Then you think it's over, but it's not, and it comes back up, and it's like and you have to continue to re-argue or re-defend yourself over and over again, because like you're trying to be convinced to, for an opposite belief or something like that, and to the point where you just be like, all right, I'm cutting it off right here. Like, this is what it is. I don't give a damn if you agree with it or not. I'm not asking your permission. Like, when I tell you these things, I'm just letting you know. I don't need you to give me input or tell me I should do this instead. Let me cut it off right here. And then it's like that whole rigmarole. It has been frustrating and exhausting. I don't like doing it, so I try to avoid doing those things. But like I said, it hasn't been useful within our relationship, which I believe I've gotten significantly better at.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I feel like my piece took up a good chunk of this. What are your thoughts?
Some of that was new information for me, so I'm still processing a portion of what you said.
Also, none of the things that I said, like, is something that happened between us. I'm just saying, like, that's been my experience in the past, and not even in like romantic relationships either.
Okay, that's helpful context. I do still feel like that was a lot of information for me, which I'm grateful for. I'm always happy for new information about you and about your thought process.
It's new to me too. I'm just coming, it's springing forth. Like one of those, like we were talking about last night, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like you always come up with some kind of deeply introspective realization about yourself every day behind something. Again, you're like, because I be taking in all this information and asking me these questions that get me there. I just felt like this was like one of those moments for me.
I like that for you. I like the opportunity for you to learn more things about yourself.
Yeah.
Growing your awareness. Ting. But yeah, I mean, I guess back to the clip.
Yeah, the whole point.
Back to the clip of thinking about the problem thing. Do you remember the second tip?
The second tip was...
Leave the tip in.
Wow. First tip was the problem was the problem. The second tip was, I don't know, like you on the same team or something like that. Am I making that up? Maybe.
All I remember is the third tip being about the hurt.
Yeah, like you don't get to like deny their hurt because whatever the reason.
Yeah.
Damn, what was the second tip? You probably should have wrote these things down or something.
Potentially. Let's see.
When you're in a disagreement with
Oh.
Okay, so I say 3 tips, right?
I can take the thing off just so I can look at it. Horse. I thought they wrote it in the caption.
Let's cut this part out.
Okay. Secondly, what's important, you cannot win a battle without losing the war. The minute that you were pitted against your partner in a conflict, if you won, that means they lost and ultimately your relationship loses.
Okay.
You never ever want to be in that position. And last but not least.
Okay, so yeah, this the second point review. The second tip, what's the tip? Second tip was you can't win the battle without losing the war. You're on the same team. The second that you are pitted against your partner, it's over. Like the relationship suffers. Very factual.
Agreed. I think that's a good point. Like if I win, then that means that you had to lose. But I mean, I wonder if a part of that thinking is like based in some people's concept of compromise or like accommodating. Do you feel like you lose when you accommodate me?
Not necessarily, because I wouldn't say I feel like I've lost or I feel like I'm losing. Am I by accommodating? I don't think so. 'Cause I feel like the relationship ends up winning because like we end up. I've never felt like I've taken a L. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, that's good then. That was the only place that I can think of people feeling like I lost because I had to accommodate, you know?
Right.
Like I didn't get my way or I had to compromise. I didn't get my way. That feels like a loss. But that's true for me too. I don't necessarily feel like anytime that I've accommodated, I've lost anything.
The only thing that is a change is maybe I had a specific idea in mind, and because of the accommodation, like it looks a little bit different, but the end result is still relatively the same. I guess a quick example could be like I want to go here for vacation, you want to go here for vacation. We accommodate each other and we go there for vacation. Like at the end of the day, I just want to go on a goddamn vacation. It happened, and or we may go to where you want to go first, and then my place to second place, or vice versa, or something like that. You know, end of the day, like it's more of a, I don't know. I don't have a war term that works with it because, a little delayed gratification at best, at worst. So I may not be able to get it now, but we got a plan and an idea to make it happen at another point.
Yeah,
we can't do this right now, but we can do this, and then in a future point, we will do that thing that you really want to do, vice versa.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's a good point. There is a way to be able to feel like you both won, and if you feel like one person won over the other, your relationship ultimately ends up losing, because I feel like that builds the resentment.
Absolutely,
right? Like if
yeah.
I feel like I lost, or if I feel like I keep taking L's here.
And I think that's because I feel like we've done a relatively good job of I want to say vetting or having that discernment to make sure that most of our things like align, our interests align. So even if you want something, it's not so wildly out of proportion of what I want that it's like we both can't, like it's not a scenario in which we both cannot get what we want a little bit out of it.
Agreed. Way to go, team. Dink.
Hey.
Okay.
All right.
We ready for
good?
video number 2?
Yeah, all right. So we get on this one. You're finna move on to the second video. This one is from
Iyanla Van Zandt.
Iyanla Van Zandt. Was it Fix My Life or whatever?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's from that show. It might be though.
My experience and my observation is that most women are men in skirts, meaning that the way their presence, their being, the way we roll in the world, it's very masculine because we've been conditioned and programmed out of our feminines. And when I say, I don't mean feminist movement in the world, I want to be a fireman or a football player. I'm talking about, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how to be a woman in your being. What is the distinction between feminine power and masculine power? And we've been conditioned and trained to be men in skirts. We do everything like men. We compete like men. I said this on the R Spot a few weeks ago. I said, most women want their boyfriend to act like their girlfriends, chatting, shopping. But when the man comes home, what they meet is another dude.
That's right. That wasn't Ayanna Fix My Life. That was probably like the Breakfast Club, based off that Charlamagne chuckle. So yeah, that was an interesting. Did you say that to me? I said that to you.
I don't know. I feel like we heard it around the same time.
Yeah.
And upon listening to it, one, I feel like most people, when they hear Iyanla Van Zandt talk, they either love her and are fanatic about it, or they roll
their eyes like,
like can't stand it. I found it interesting that she used we language, like she included herself as a part of the group of women who are not 100% in their feminine. So I thought that was interesting.
I didn't even peep that.
And I also thought, and this is probably framed around a book that I'm reading right now. It's called Fierce Self-Compassion. And the chapter that I'm reading, which is the second chapter in the book, talks about like feminine and masculine energies similar to yin and yang, and how you can't be 100% of either, that you need to have a little bit of a balance of the other in order to best be able to operate in the world. And that in the society that we're in right now, because we have conditioned people to exist on opposite ends of the spectrum in such extremes, that's why we have what people consider toxic masculinity. And we have women inching their way to like swinging the pendulum back the other way and being more quote unquote masculine, because the behavior that's rewarded in our society is behavior that is typically masculine.
Rewarded. In what way? What kind of rewards?
In a capitalistic way.
All right. Okay. So okay.
Not in a relationship. Not in the sense of the family unit or in those aspects of life. Like not in your personal life, but in your professional life, to a certain extent, that is rewarded.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
But
no, it's not even a but. I'm just like, is it? I just think that's just because the nature of, I guess, the beast, so to speak. Like, in order to be successful professionally in business or what have you, you need to have certain traits in order to be like successful, and those traits are typically seen or most exhibited by quote unquote masculine like men, so to speak. So I guess I can definitely understand. That doesn't mean that you can't be successful being feminine. It's just like that's been like the only example, the only proven path to success in that way. So yeah, I can't even hold you on that. It's definitely rewarded on a professional basis and things like that. Yeah.
And I wonder for her what she would describe as feminine versus what she would describe as masculine, because I think most of us have a working concept that is based around our lived experience and social experience. But I think that there are people who find fault in those definitions of masculine and feminine. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
And so when we're saying like women aren't feminine and women need to return to femininity, is it a femininity that we've all agreed upon and want to return towards, and who does that serve? Like when we're making that decision that women need to be more feminine. I don't know. I struggle with this because I'm like, I would describe myself as a pretty feminine woman, and I like femininity. Like I like the things that I feel like are that come naturally to me as a woman. But a part of me is like, do those things come naturally to me because I'm a woman, or do those things come naturally to me because I'm me? You know what I'm saying?
So nature nurturing this situation?
Not nature. I recognize that I couldn't. I don't know. I recognize that I couldn't exist in this space without the example of the women who came before me, right? So like my mom, grandmother, women in my family who taught me what it means to be a woman. So I don't think that it's like nature nurture, but I guess I think that there is more than one way to be a woman and more than one way to be feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that, I guess I struggle with like defining femininity for everyone.
I mean, I think the first thing we need to do is I guess separate feminine from women,
That's fair.
Because to the yin yang example, there's a little bit of the opposite within it. So I think, the first step is to separate, feminine from women, because I think a lot of the times when it's used negatively, we genderize it. We put a gender to feminine traits in men as a negative, and then we genderize masculine traits as a negative when we're speaking to women, and also for men too at this point. Damn. So men getting slapped twice. So though on one hand, we are equating masculine when it's in a man as automatically toxic. So you bad for that. You need to be more feminine. And then we're also looking at women who are showing, I guess, masculine traits as being negative, and you need to go back to being feminine, I guess. And I think when they say that, they mean girly. I don't know. That's
what I'm saying. I'm like, sometimes that's why I'm like, what are you asking women to do?
But I think, sorry.
Go ahead. No.
So for me personally, I think when I think feminine, I think soft. I think gentle. I think path of least resistance. Like you don't bump your head against a wall. You kind of move and flow to get the outcome that you need. You don't have to like be aggressive. Like, it's like a certain type of aggression. And yeah, for me, feminine is just softer.
Google says, or let me not take my first source, because the first source was Wikipedia, and I don't know if I trust her. In American culture, femininity includes wearing pink, playing with dolls, sporting high heels, and getting weepy during sad movies. Feminine energy is described as nurturing, love, receptivity, compassion, and care.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's femininity. The last part you say, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I think in my mind, when she said they're not, women aren't as feminine anymore, or when I hear like dudes be like, women are here acting like dudes, or they're not very feminine more. That's what I have in mind. That's what I picture in my mind. Because like that's been the experience. That's what I've seen. That's when I think of like a masculine man, I think of a woman who doesn't exude too much like compassion, too much nurturing. They're very like, hey yo, like I think of a woman from the Bronx with the accent, with Tim's on type shit. And I know that's a cultural thing, but like when I think like just that mannerism, that's just a New York cultural thing. I just think that's what it looks like in my mind. That's what it flashes in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that they aren't those things. It's just like the energy doesn't project that at all.
Valid. Them New York. If you ever run across a New York chick, she might stomp you out in them Timbs. You be
right.
bringing them up as examples frequently.
What can I say?
I spin about you. She ain't gonna do nothing.
You got to get you some Timbs too, because only a Tim can defeat a Tim.
That's true. I be wearing Birks.
Yeah, I'm saying like, hey,
damn, my feet will be done.
Yeah, you can't do nothing about you. Gotta,
I'm gonna have to take my Birk off and beat her with it. Pop, 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 pop. Okay,
don't hit the same. So yeah, so to that point, that's what I see when it comes to the feminine. To a point, I do think. Well, I do. My first inclination is to be like, I agree with you 100%. I do think that women can be a little bit more feminine, but then I'm like, okay, I think that may not be necessarily 100% true. Just to kind of paint the brush that all women need to be more, because there are plenty of women who are. We just don't hear about them because they're not in your face. That's the whole point of it. And the ones that we do hear about are the ones who don't have, are I guess, quote unquote, lacking the trait that we wish they had. Those are the ones that we see most often. So
I don't know if I agree with that, babe. What I think is happening for a lot of women is their masculine energy, which includes aggression, which includes like maybe even hyper independence or being outspoken, things like that. Those things have served as a defense mechanism for them. Like those things have served to protect them, and the feminine energy that they have that they can access is something that they like don't readily have at the available because they feel like they have to be on defense on go.
I hear that. I definitely recognize and acknowledge the societal factors that go into creating those type of women and those behaviors. It doesn't change the fact that is what it is. So like, for example, if you want to flip it and we talk about the quote unquote toxic masculinity, there are factors involved that cause them to behave in that manner and X, Y, and Z, but that is not an excuse. Like that's not, you can't hold that up as like a shield to wipe away the behavior. It's like, yeah, we get that that's what it is, but that's not acceptable.
That's fair. Well, I guess I wasn't trying to use it as an excuse. I guess what I'm offering is that their femininity isn't eradicated. It's not that their femininity doesn't exist. It's that they're protecting their feminine energy, or like not relying on their feminine energy because it hasn't been something that has been rewarded for them. And maybe this still sounds like an excuse. I'm just thinking through like why the situation is what it is, as opposed to just thinking of I don't know, thinking of more femininity as a solution. Is that the solution? Is that going to solve the problem?
I don't think it hurt it, but I hear what you're saying, and yeah, like I definitely, yeah.
How does more femininity change things? How does more femininity move us towards the place that we want to be? if there is an agreed upon place that we want to be. I think for us, it's for people to be in healthy, happy relationships and to avoid certain pitfalls in those relationships. So yeah, probably a little bit more femininity from women and probably a touch of femininity for men would help them in that effort, because if it is yin and yang, then you need a touch of both to be able to really be able to move forward and have what you need in a relationship. If you can't nurture me, be compassionate and loving towards me, I don't want you. Like, I don't want a man who isn't able to tap into those things. And I'm sure if I wasn't able to be aggressive when necessary, to be independent, and you weren't able to trust that I would speak up for myself and stand up for myself, I'm not sure that you will want to be with me.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying for sure. But I think, and it also ties into the other part that Ayana was saying, that like, while a lot of women say we want our man to be more vulnerable, express their emotions and things of that nature, but we're also seeing instances where that they get that and they don't like it. It's a turnoff, and there's lists of things that masculine men aren't allowed to do, and
your birth certificate
they're stupid, right? And it's stupid as shit. So I think one of the issues is, and which I think she kind of said what she said, or maybe say not an issue, but one of the barriers in which she kind of touched on is that like women want their men to act like their girlfriends. So like women say they want men to be more vulnerable. They want them to express themselves more, but they have a specific way in which they want it to happen. Like, and it has to look how they have it in their mind. And if it don't look like that, then it didn't happen. So, and I think that's what she was saying about like the expectation is for like women want their men to kind of be like their girlfriend that are also stomping nigga out. You feel me? So so it's like I want the quote unquote the masculine man, but I also want him to be and behave with me as if he was my girlfriend. Yeah, I hear that. And it's like, though, that's not how that's the black dot in the white part and the white dot in the black part is not equal. They're not the same. It's a dot. So you can't it's a touch. You even said we want them to be a touch more. You can't get a touch in everything. So I think that was the part I was personally concentrating on when I was it stuck out to me in what she said. It was just like a lot of women expect their men to express their vulnerability in a way that is expressed to them when they're interacting with their female friends. Mm-hmm. And that's not how that works.
That's fair. We're not socialized the same way to be able to talk about our feelings in the same way. So I'm not mad at that. That makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot behind that. There's a lot more we can probably go into, regarding like that expectation that I feel like a lot of women have for men in regards to the changes, I guess, that women like to make in their men. Mm-hmm. While also simultaneously being extremely resistant to the reciprocity of that part. Like you want to bring the man closer to where you're standing, but resist getting pulled a little closer to where the man is, like trying to meet in the middle. It's just like the pull always feels one-sided. That's at least that's the perception, and yeah,
perception based off of.
Well, that's been my experience growing up. Mm-hmm. That's what I've witnessed growing up. That's what I'm hearing from most of the men that I've been in contact with. That's what I'm seeing and hearing. And yeah, like it's plenty of. There's a lot of content out there where there's women saying men need to be more this, and that, and then men. I'm like, okay, well, if this is going to get us the outcome, cool. The only time you get a pushback is like if what you're saying you want doesn't reflect what we're seeing out and about. So it's like we want men to be more softer, we're not seeing the softer, non-toxic niggas getting like the adoration. It's not being rewarded. We're seeing the future is getting rewarded. So it's like, that's not matching up. So like, explain that to me, make that make sense. And we can maybe work to getting that to you. But anytime you see a man be like, we would like women to do this or be closer to this, it's always like, you're insecure, or I'm not gonna do it. Like, it can't happen. Oh my God, no. So like, I thought we were in negotiations here. Like, this is what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the laundry list of things you want. I try to get as many of those things as I can. Okay, now here is my list of things. I'm sliding it across the desk so you can see where I would like to be before we can reach it. And then we're just getting the like, no.
My immediate reaction to that was like, I'm not trying to negotiate as a single person with nobody else. But maybe that is the time when you do need to negotiate because you ain't got nobody.
Well, I see it.
You're negotiating your market value at that point.
The whole dating situation is a negotiation. The whole everything within it is a negotiation. And the people who can't stay in a relationship or don't get in a relationship, the negotiations broke down. Whether that be you didn't do your due diligence and so you got surprised on the back end on something. Mm-hmm. Or somebody like actively deceived you and like falsified documentation, so to speak. You come into the first date, you got an idea like this. I want this. I want these things, this and this thing. And if that's not being met by the other side, then you're not going to sign a deal with that person. Mm-hmm. So I think all of dating is a negotiation. It sounds. Is it because it sounds so cold?
No, I mean, I think you're right in the sense of like you're negotiating for what you want in the marketplace. But I guess, I don't know. A part of me feels like what we've talked about in the past of like the desire to get with someone and to change them or to mold them into what it is that you would like them to be is what potentially could happen in this space, right? It's like, are people so committed to whatever it is that they want, that they say they want in a partner, that they're willing to stay single? Or do they end up in relationships with people and complain that those people are not what it is that they want?
I think it's both of those things. Because you've heard that story come from both sides. You've heard that like I've been in these relationships and I learned and changed about myself, and now this is what my new demands are, and then this is the ones and then you've heard the I'm not settling. The discussion, and yeah,
you're right. Okay, that was helpful. A helpful callback of like, there are definitely people on the internet of like, I'd rather be by myself because X, Y, and Z doesn't exist, and these are the things that I want, and if they don't exist, then I'm not going to settle. And then there are other people who are, to your point, like, I learned this from my experience, and this is now what I want. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's it. How you feeling?
Like
it's about that time. It's about that time. All right, that's fine. We pushing up on that time limit anyway. So you got any final food for thought?
My final food for thought is to listen. Listen to your partner if you have one. Listen to yourself. You'll always have yourself. Listen to yourself, because there are things that maybe you are not giving enough attention that would help you answer some of the questions that you have.
I mean, that's big facts. Agreed.
What about you?
For me, I would say that at the end of the day, your feelings are valid, but your feelings don't make reality. Like, just because you feel this way doesn't mean that's what it is. It's just what's true for you currently in the moment, but it doesn't negate what reality is. So take the time, acknowledge, like, yo, you feel hurt, you feel bad, or however good, happy, whatever the emotion is. But I guess try to separate that from your partner's behavior. You know what I mean? Like, the behavior wasn't intended for you to feel that way.
Yeah.
So like, don't be mad at him for that. but just be like, oh, I was hurt by this thing. I know you didn't intend for that to happen. So it's not that you tried to harm me or you tried to make me feel away, but the behavior that you exhibited did, in fact, harm me, like make me feel a type of way. And what can we do to rectify this situation? Make sure, maybe it just may come to the point of you just need to explain what your intention was behind it or why you did this thing, and be okay, cool, that makes sense. But at the end of the day, just try to separate the action from the elicited response in yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point, babe. Definitely assume good intentions. Like your partner has good intentions for you. They're with you because they want the best for you.
Especially if y'all been together.
Especially
if y'all together.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if y'all are together.
Yeah.
And y'all like are committed to each other. Like at this point, if you still questioning whether or not like they intend good things for you or harm for you, maybe you need to like question like why are you there? Why are you there if you so quick to presume that whatever action or things they say is negative for you? And maybe that can be a grounding moment for you within a relationship to make you realize like, oh shit, I'm assuming this bad thing. I know that's not true. Let me examine what's like this reaction. You can potentially be able to reframe it and use it in that way.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, we appreciate y'all tuning in to another episode of the Buffet Podcast. Nope. That's not the right one. Bill Horn is right there. There we go. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button because it really would help us out. We lit. She having fun with this thing. All right, y'all. Peace.